Hello, everybody. Good morning for the ones that we are in this side of the world, and good afternoon to Cristabel and all the people in the other side of the world. And
Exactly.
we're very honored to have Cristabel Huerta with us again, and we're very excited and of all this collaboration that we are doing with HATO. We believe with Cristabel that education is a key element for the industry and to keep adding value uh, to everybody in a very nice way. So we have Cristabel again. She will present to us today the webinar four key benefits of optimal lane lighting. As always, this webinar will be recorded and we will share with everybody in maybe 1 week or a little less. And thank you again, Cristabel, for your willingness to keep educating people and having this connectivity. And I think that we're doing something very, very important to the industry. Okay, so the time is yours, Cristabel. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Thank you, everyone who is joining us today. Good morning to those in America. Good evening to those here in Europe or the other side of the world. Thank you for being here, for giving us a little bit of your time and the interest in the topic of lighting. As Rodolfo said, this is our third collaboration already. This time we will focus on the topic of laying hen lighting. So if you are interested further, more to explore the other applications in poultry, we have a very complete webinar that talks about poultry lighting in general. And our last collaboration was about broiler lighting. So those who are here to know about how lighting can help to improve animal behavior and performances in laying hen farms, you are very welcome. Those that have other applications, there are several topics that are also related to poultry behavior and the way that lighting can influence their biorhythm and also behavior and at the end performances. So you're also welcome to stay. And if you have any questions, please leave it in the chat. We will have a room for questions and answers. Any comments, everything, leave it in the chat. Rodolfo is having an eye on that. And at the end, we will answer your questions, of course. So let's continue. Just a short introduction about myself. I'm Cristabel Huerta, the brightness consultant within HATO. I have been working in HATO already for 5 years, and I have a broad experience as a business development manager for Latin America. And then I switched more into being a link between marketing and sales by covering the sharing of knowledge within HATO and external parties. And that's we find very important because we need to bring these basic concepts of lighting and the practices that can improve the light management in the farm and bring, of course, that your birds are profitable in several ways. So let's see and hope you enjoy it. First, I have just a general poll so that you have it, keep it in mind, so that you have this, let's say, challenges along the presentation and how you can overcome this and bring into benefits. So here are the main questions. So what are the main challenges to overcome? Should be layer farms and not layer breeder farms. Some of these are also involved in layer breeder farms, but think about the commercial layers. Is it egg production? Feed conversion is anyway in all poultry farms very important. Is it that light stimulus? You have issues about pecking and cannibalism maybe, mortality, egg quality, floor eggs. That depending on the type of housing. If it's floor housing, if you have already an aviary, that could be also an issue. So just think about all these challenges that you may face in your poultry farm and how lighting can help you to overcome this. So that is what we will learn in this presentation to bring these key benefits of optimal laying hen lighting. When you learn how to manage a good light control, light program in your barn. So we have here as number one, improved egg production and shell strength, a stress-free birds, that has to do a lot with unwanted behavior in the farm, less floor eggs, and uniform sexual maturity in egg-laying performances. So this could be challenges or topics that you always want to improve to bring the best performance, to be a profitable farm, but somehow you are missing it, and we will put here all our efforts in explaining how lighting can help you to improve in all these aspects. But first, we need to understand the basics of lighting. So how does poultry perceive light? This is in two ways. So it can go through the eye, and that is what gives behavioral responses in the birds. So when they perceive light through the eye, already less than 4 lux, eyesight is of greater importance because they can perceive their surroundings. Therefore, it's very important that in the initial days, when you bring the pullets inside the house, that you give sufficient light, and that this is brought in a uniform way with sufficient illuminance. And that will depend on how is the type of housing. Is it in cage housing? Is it floor housing? How is the birds are distributed in this housing to provide sufficient light intensity on bird eye level so that they can perceive their surroundings, they can find water and feed, because that is what it is important, immediately find water. And therefore, it is important that the light goes to the nipples on that dropple that shines a bit, so that for them it's easier to reach that. So that is why you need lighting, so that they can go around, identify within themselves, and feel in conform and have a normal activity. But it has to be enough of lighting, and not too much, not too dark. And that is what we will learn along the presentation. Besides that, light can also penetrate the skull of the birds. So it's like, we call it like the third eye, that the pineal glands and the hypothalamus, as we see in the drawing, is another kind of light sensor that also stimulates animal behavior and even performances. So that will regulate also or help to regulate hormone balance, their immune system, to stimulate more their biorhythms if we give the proper lighting or an optimal light climate in the house. So lighting is very important. I want to bring it always like a way of communication with your birds. And lighting is the message to bring to them, because you will be the sender and they the receptor, and light is a way that they will respond with certain activity. There you know that light intensity is very important, photo period. That is the way that you communicate with the birds to bring that light stimulus that you need to reach the productivity that you are looking for. So here we will learn certain key aspects that will help you to increase your productivity. So, but how is that poultry is perceiving that light? The light, visible light that we see as a daylight, is just a part of it. And that spectrum of light that is visible for humans, for every animal species, differs according to their biological process. So as we see here, poultry perceives that light spectrum in a wider way than human does. We see here the comparison as well. You see that they perceive more colors, and that is because they have 4 cones. We have only 3 cones in our eyes, in the structure of their eyes, and they can perceive more colors than we do. So here, for instance, they can perceive the ultraviolet. They can perceive good blue, green, and yellow, orange, and even a bit of the red and infrared that we as humans do not see. So in the next image, so we'll see how, for instance, birds will perceive the colors of another bird. So in laying hens, it's very important, and poultry in general, that they perceive, they can have a good vision because they can even recognize the feather pattern within each other, which is a unique sign of every bird. And that way they can recognize better and have a more social behavior. So not so individual, but well being in more conform when they can identify within each other. So that's the way how they would perceive more colors than we do. So they are more sensitive to light, not only through the eye, but also through the skull, that these wavelengths of the spectrum of light will influence in different ways in their performances. So this also to keep in mind how can we create this optimal light climate to improve vision and improve their well-being. And with that, we'll see a different way of activity that can improve as well performances. So in the first aspect that we said about egg production and shell strength, let's see how can lighting can help to improve in this challenge that can bring into benefit in your laying farm. And that is to providing a broad light spectrum. So as I was saying, they are very sensitive to light. You need to simulate daylight inside of your barn. If you have an open farm or well semi-closed, then anyway, supplementary lighting is important to have in there, because as you know, if you want to have this good light management practices about providing the good lighting intensity and the correct photo period following the lighting program of the genetic line of the breed, to give that light stimulus for production or for growth and development, then you need to be sure that you are having a good light climate inside the house. So sometimes sunlight is not being sufficient. Sometimes it's daylight too intense at the sides of the house and not inside, not being sufficient inside of the house. Also not being uniform. If you have cage housing, then it is more intensity at the top tier than at the bottom tier, and so on. So therefore, supplementary LED lighting is really the best technology to have in the barn that simulates daylight, and that can help you to communicate better with your animals. The other side, if you are having a closed environment, then of course, artificial lighting is even more important, because you need to simulate daylight completely, the whole light cycle. So therefore, you need to be sure that you are providing a good light spectrum to improve their vision. And we will see the other aspects that can also help to mature the birds properly, to stimulate the feed and water intake according to the type of housing, and of course to reduce stress, the light intensity that gives them comfort. So where you will direct this light, how is the light distribution in the house? So all these aspects of lighting will contribute to a higher amount of stronger eggs. And that is what you are looking for when you provide a good lighting. It's an extra tool that will help you to steer animal behavior and as well certain performances. So here we see that providing this broad light spectrum that I always tell, this is like the golden rule for in general an optimal light climate, will always improve animal sight, and that will improve their well-being. They will feel more at ease, they will feel less stress, then you will stimulate a more natural behavior that will regulate better their biorhythms, adapt to the light cycles, follow the light program according as it is stated in the management guideline of the breed. If you are providing a good light climate in the house. And then you will see results, because eventually you will get the desired behavior in the farm. You can steer their behavior in the way that you want to reach certain objectives to have a better farm performances that you can reach with a good light management. Okay, so another form of send the message of to poultry through lighting, and that we want to communicate with them so that they respond in a certain way, is with color lighting. But which color to use when? So in laying hens, we see that warm white is the color that will keep them calmer and that has a more influence in sexual stimulation and egg-laying performances. And that is because a warm white color, it has more part of the reds part of the spectrum. The orange red is more present in there than the blue and green. The color of lighting can be measured in light temperature, so in Kelvin degrees, and that is what we know. As higher it goes, it has more blue part of the spectrum in it, and as lower it goes, is more red part in that spectrum of light. Remember the graphic, how poultry perceives that light spectrum? Well, when you provide more reds in it, it is going more into the warm white, and more blue is more into the cool white. And then still you see the white color of the light, but in LEDs, you will see a little bit bluish. And in a warm white, you will see a bit more like amber color, but this is still the white light. And it is important that it is white, because that is being a broader spectrum with the other colors present as well. It's also green, blue. That is very important to improve growth during rearing period, so that they don't miss that part. The green, for instance, is also very important to reinforce the strength of the eggshell. And the other colors, like the red, that is also very important to improve in egg-laying performances. And that is why it is recommended in laying hens and parent stock. For instance, the cool white is more for broilers, lower than the 2 kilos. If you have heavy broilers, then to reduce that activity, then you could go to a warm white solution. And that is what we talk about the white light. Now, monochromatic lighting, that will mean only measured in nanometers, so only that wavelength gives just one color that we have seen as an added value to mix the red with white to improve even more the sexual stimulation. Or else, when you are having issues with pecking, the red color, providing the red color, because birds, poultry really perceive that red, will camouflage the wounds and the blood when they are pecking. So eventually they won't see those red spots. Therefore, it helps even when you have cannibalism issues, then really use only monochromatic reds to decrease the problem. So that is one thing that we have seen. It is very valuable in laying farms. And the blue effects, that is mostly used in broiler farms, but you can eventually use for vaccination or at breeder farms, that this blue has a special effect that makes the birds sit still, really laying there. So when you have a farm only under blue lights, the birds will not move, they will lay, and then it's easier to catch them. And then you also reduce the stress. And it has been seen as well that there is less cortisona in the meat, so that really reduces the stress. And that is just has this special effect that makes the task easier, and also less damages in the with the animals as well. And the other important color is the UVA. When you add this into the spectrum of light, so in artificial LEDs, and you add a factor of UVA in the same lamp, you will increase or have a broader light spectrum. And as said, they can perceive the UVA and that improves bird vision even better. Right? I will show you some examples how would look a lamp that has both colors, the cool white and the warm white, and having the UVA. We won't perceive the UVA, but birds, they will see it. And that will have an effect in their behavior, and normally in a more positive way that if they won't have it. Now, if you have a farm where the daylight is coming inside the barn, then you see as well that they also stimulate a more natural behavior, but of course it has to be a uniform light. It could be that in certain parts you have higher light intensity, and that annoys the birds, that create a stress, that even you can have pecking issues in that case. So it has everything to do with have a good balance, a good light management in the barn. So you saw there the changes from bluish to I cannot take to more warm white light. So there you see the bar of the CCT. How is this measuring the white light into more red part of it or blue part in that spectra? If you simulate that with the daylight, then you see that during sunrise and sunset, you have more red part of the spectrum, and it simulates a warm white LED solution. And along the day, very blue sky, midday, then you will have a more cool white light in the day. Now, if we put this into graphics, so one thing is how you see it from eyesight. Another is how to interpret this color of light, this spectrum, from an artificial lighting. So in this case, we are taking our Corax, that is one of our best sellers in the lighting, HATO lighting, and it has several variations with different colors. So we have here is a LED type where we have the spectrum of a warm white, around 3000 Kelvin degrees. And we see that we have a higher peak in the orange-red part of the spectrum. If we go to cool white, then you have a higher peak in the blue, a bit less on the red, but it still is a broad spectrum. This is an LED type. And DDS, there's another variation that you can combine both the cool white and the warm white, and eventually you will have a broader spectra, but it has as well a UVA factor. So that is always present, something that you don't have in here. And that is what will improve their vision. And you see it goes deeper in warm white and deeper in blue white. And we have seen really changes in development and performances. I will summary here of the research on effects of UVA. There was on a small scale, but there we have seen how it really influences in a positive way, and that you can increase your productivity and performances as well. Now, this lighting system is not new. It is already for a couple of years there in the market, especially on those Nordic countries when the UVA was mandatory. And that is due to seasonal stages that they have in those countries where they don't have sunlight at all, very short periods of light. And therefore, they need more artificial lighting in the farms that simulates daylight, and therefore UVA was very important. So we see here that pre-laying developments, it is increased. We see more rats, combs, and wattles at the same age with non-UVA, and with UVA, you see the difference at 14 weeks, 19 weeks, how development looks like. So it really improves growth and development. They have better litter quality. It looks cleaner and less spilled feed, because as you improve their vision, they can identify the feed that is on the ground, and they can pick it up. So they as well stimulates more natural behavior, and as said, group behavior, because they go foraging, sleeping together, eating in groups, drinking, not like piling, but really like communicating within each other. And they have this more social behavior. And the users in these Nordic countries, they have seen that difference when they were providing only warm white, and now having the possibility to switch from cool white, also to use that during the morning to activate the birds, and then along the day having them more in a warm white because keep them calmer. And as you know, light is again a way to activate birds when you need that to improve their activity, to improve the growth of muscles, bones, especially during rearing phase, or when you need to decrease that activity that can lead to unwanted behavior, and like agitation, nervousness, or flapping, or other issues, even pecking, then you will decrease also the light intensity. So it is that you need to combine all these aspects, not only focus on light intensity, but yeah, how is the spectrum of light has been brought, because it's not the same, the spectrum of an LED than a fluorescent, or even between LEDs, it can vary as well. Here we see, again, the results of that UVA factor in that warm white, cool white solution. And we see that laying percentage has improved for UVA very high, almost 10% increase. Here we have it 16% more, 48x when you compare to non-UVA light, and a more uniform X size. So while non-UVA were having 4 different gradings, with UVA all size grade M. So that is also something that will help to achieve the results that you are looking for. So lighting is really an extra tool. It's not just a part of the equipment, but a tool that will influence in many ways the behavior of your birds. Now, other factor that is very important is CRI, that has to do with improving color vision. And that is that depends on the quality of the light fixture. Certainly within LEDs, as higher as the CRI goes, that is better the quality of the LED. And the CRI that is 100 is the closer the color presentation comes to that of sunlight, as we will see that object under the sun with all the colors that represent that object. We will see it with an artificial lighting inside a house. And as we know that poultry is very sensitive to light, we need to provide a high CRI factor in that light fixture. So optimal would be above 80. You see that difference in these images. So it's not that there's not, that looks blurred, but it's like you don't see the colors that clear. It could be that in that light fixture, you are not having enough of the red, so that the red comes and red wattles, you won't see it as red, but as pink or orange. So when they can identify the birds, the feather pattern, or their surroundings, or the feet, all the housing, everything, you need to improve their color vision. That is a very sensitive sense, the eye, and therefore is also another aspect where you can improve. Now, the second aspect would be how can lighting can help to reduce pecking. Well, I was already talking about using the red color. So as you see, you have there the light solution where in the same lamp, you can mix red and white. And with that, even go to monochromatic light. So in the same light fixture, you can combine LEDs in white and LEDs in reds. So you don't need to add different lamps, and that is more efficient. And again, another way to steer animal behavior. And as well to stimulate the egg laying performances. So for sure, in the floor housing on aviaries where you have free mobility, that can lead to certain agitation or unwanted behavior or something else that is causing a stress. One of the things is flicker. We'll see it in the next slide. That can also lead to this pecking behavior. And when you can put lights free, flicker free, or adjust the light intensity, light color can also help to decrease that problem. So that certainly optimizes poultry welfare, again, stimulates natural behavior, and that is advisable to have this kind of lighting solution in open aviaries of this enriched cages that can later to be open, that have this free mobility, or else in floor housing. Now, if we see about light flicker, this is a very important and complex aspect about lighting. We need a lot of time just to explain this aspect, but just to sum up, here is the fluctuation in light intensity of a lamp that repeats over time. So we see that in this graphic. And again, is that poultry can see it through the eyes when a light flickers. So there's this oscillation going from plus to minus that constantly repeats. And that's a speed of repeating of the time is what we measure in frequency. So how many times per second this oscillation occurs. And that is also different per species. So the humans at 60 hertz, we don't see that fluctuation anymore. And with poultry, it's around this 100 hertz that they won't see it, but still can perceive it because they can perceive light through the skull as well. So even that they won't see it on simple eyesight, it can influence on their behavior, and then can create a lot of stress and unwanted behavior as huddling, smothering, increased mortality, even because they won't reach feed, will retain. So they don't have a normal activity, and that for sure will lower your performances. So it is very important to measure your lighting and check if that is having a flicker. I have here a short video. Hope you will see it. Hold on a moment. I can't put out the pointer. And let's see now. Yeah. So then you see that fluctuation with the other lamp that looks more a cool white solution, and with the other lamp being very steady. And that is due to the lighting system itself. How is the technology of that lamp that avoids that flicker? That you see the corax, our corax, that is with a complete lighting system with a dimmer and the power supply that converts the alternate current into direct currents to avoid that oscillation, and with the dimming that also is compatible with a full system and will avoid this flicker. Then when you come to measure, that is when you can just see it on simple eyesight. Normally we don't. If you come to see it, then you have a very high problem about flicker. If not, you can measure it with a light meter. Sometimes even people use a mobile phone and put it close to the light source, and they can see that fluctuation, that stripes in the screen. But with a light meter, is more precisely to measure frequency, percentage of flicker, a flicker index. For instance, here we see a very high issue with flicker at 100 hertz, what you might think poultry won't see it, but the percentage is very high, and the flicker index is far away of being on 0.06, which is more or less the threshold that everything below the 0.06 is, we can name it as flicker free. And then you see the pattern is also very visible, how this oscillation occurs. And then you know that you have a flickering in the lighting, and that is influencing animal behavior. Then you see here, when you go from a high flicker LED lighting to a flicker-free lighting solution, you can get even almost a 2% egg production increase. Just because they will feel more at ease, they will feel more comfortable, you decrease the well-being, you decrease the stress, you decrease other unwanted behavior, you stimulate feed intake, because if that light flicker, hands will not go to the feeder line, or feeders, depending on the type of housing. They will avoid those points, and that creates a lot of problems. And then when this is away, you see already an improvement in productivity. Now, the third aspect, how can lighting help to improve sexual maturity? Well, it has several aspects of lighting that influence in sexual maturity. One is having the optimal light intensity, following what the breed is, the light management is telling you to have according to, location, latitude, type of housing. You need to follow their recommendations, and the photo period as well. Here talking about flicker-free lights and dimmable lighting. That can help you to efficient your light management practices. So dimmable lights is something that will also improve to get into the right sexual maturity to achieve a proper stimulation of the birds. And of course, a uniform light distribution with the optimal light intensity is not only that you said, yeah, okay, in average, I'm having this light intensity, but then when you measure at different points of the house, you see that is not uniform. That perhaps if you're having them on a cage housing type age, so in batteries, that in one lane vertical underneath that lamp, you will have very high light intensity, but just in between the lamps is quite dark. So it's not uniform along the tier. And now even if you measure on the different tiers or levels of the system, then you will see a very big gap in between the top tier and the bottom tier. So that is what we are looking for, to create these equal living conditions in the house that will enable to mature uniformly. And then you can have a good management of the light intensity and photo period, achieving what you want. So you want to improve in body weight that will have an influence in the egg size. Then if you want to delay the sexual maturity because they are not getting into the right body weight, and those aspects will influence at the end on your productivity. So therefore, it's important to take all of them into account. Here with light intensity, basically is to have the correct usage of light intensity at the right side of the house. And that depends, again, on the type of housing. Are you having cage housing in A form? Are you having cage housing in batteries? And you're having a floor housing with a nest in the middle, with a nest at the sides. We need to know the dimensions of the systems, also the dimension of the house itself. So where you will install your lights, which type of light fixture you need to reach that part of the house to stimulate birds properly, that gives the right light intensity, that is not too intense. Certainly in aviaries, there we will see also different light zones to steer animal behavior, because there they have free mobility. They can go underneath the system. They have to go into the system by night to avoid floor eggs, for instance. You need to train the birds to use the system properly as well. So that has to do with light intensity. Again, is a way of communication with the birds, and that, with light intensity, you can activate a flock to stimulate productivity, even to stimulate activity. You can reduce unwanted behavior or reduce activity by reducing light intensity. So it's another way to manage your flock properly. But it is important to adjust the lux level at the different areas of the house, and as well to measure the light intensity in the way that poultry perceives the light. And as we know, poultry are more sensitive to it. And there is a term that is called Gali lux, and that is a reference for you to see how they are really perceiving light. That is normally values higher than the lux levels, but still in the market, it is not used because everything is measured on lux levels, but you have to take into account that is a unit of measure based on human side. but everything is based on lux levels. We follow those recommendations as well. We talk about lux levels or foot candle, and not the galley lux, but it's just that you have a reference how they are really perceiving light. So you can also measure it in that way. Improved light distribution. Here's an example on how the difference in uniformity. When you reach a better uniformity, you will also get better results. Here we are talking an increase on 2.6% of laying percentage. So we have the lamp uniformity that it was 85%, so 2% better than the other lamp. Here we have here the blue that is better than the red one, and that the blue was vertical, and the red one was horizontal positions light. But then those in vertical, in this case, was the uniformity improved, giving better results than the one only hanging horizontal way. And mostly the vertical are these tubular LEDs, but there are also issues with this kind of lamps when you have very intense light in front of the lamp and not in between, having more dark spots. So from there, just to improve light distribution, we had designed a specific lamp for battery house. So again, it's just the light fixture that gives you the best or more optimal light distribution according to the type of housing. Here we have seen that other brands, other kind of light fixtures can create this big gap between the top tier and the bottom tier. So we see the maximum lux value of 284 lux, while the average lux being 58 lux. And when we see with a Sterna that has a different light distribution that will give you a more uniform light in between the lamps and the different levels of the batteries, that the light spread is more to the side and not so narrow that goes to the ground, and also giving a more comfort to the birds when they look directly to the lamp. It has a block to give that comfort, again, looking into their welfare, and reducing that gap will give better results. And therefore, the light plan is very important, since rearing house is not only from production, but when you have a good start, you will have a better production in the second phase, but you need to simulate, again, the light climate while you are providing in rearing house as well in production house. The can varies. The transfer is always challenging. If you are coming from instead a closed house and then going to open house or other way around to manage the light intensity, but then just take into account if the light distribution is being uniform, if you are installing the right lights according to the type of housing, if it's the right color, the light spectrum, is it flicker free? So just try to look for the most optimal light climate. And in here you see that the light plan will tell you where to position your lights to achieve the light intensity they are looking for, and that will stimulate the birds properly. So stimulate feed and water intake when you measure the light intensity at the feeder line. Also the distance in between the lamps, how many lamps you will need per line in a floor housing, how the distance in between the lines, if you are having then nests in the middle, already production phase, then create more illuminance in the activity areas and darker zones close to the nest. So you won't have a line above the system, a line of lights, because then you will not manage properly or train your birds to use the system properly. And again, how is the beam angle of that light fixture so that you are creating enough illuminance if you are putting the light distribution more to the sides, depending on the type of housing. So all those things is what the lighting specialist is looking at to give you the best solution for the type of housing, and considering all the properties of lighting to communicate better with your birds. Photo period, again, here a good light cycle helps in regulating sleep patterns, influencing feeding habits, hormonal regulation. So therefore, photo period is very important to give the right light stimulus to the birds to reach the objectives that you want in your barn. So what the market is needing or establishing on the egg size, on egg production. So everything that you can already steer that behavior in your barns since breeding phase and then in production. So there you have several types of lighting programs, and intermittent or transitional. You just need to follow what is stated in the guideline. But it's important that never increase the photo period in rearing before the moment of light stimulation, because you have to be clear with the message. Otherwise, you won't have the right light stimulus. Never reduce the photo period during the laying. That is also very important. Then all this is also stated normally in the genetic management guidelines, but then you understand better why the behind of the basics of lighting. And when you have dimmable lights, you can have a better light management practices to simulate daylight, because it's not just putting lights on and off, knowing that birds are very sensitive to light. When you simulate the sunrise, the sunset, you can prepare poultry for what is coming. You can decrease that sudden stress responses, also prevent increased heart rate and energy usage. And remember that every unwanted behavior is energy wasted. So that's energy taken from the feed for their growth, proper development, then is wasted, and then you are not reaching the weights that you need to achieve your results. So it is important to stimulate that natural behavior, and with dimming lights, it's also easier to have good light programs. And then it's also important that the light is not flickering while dimming the light intensity, especially on lower light intensities. So just to put it again here and picture that light programs is really a very powerful tool to steer animal behavior and development, because we come to manipulate the biorhythm of the chickens with light. So therefore light is important. So do not underestimate the investments of a lighting system in your barn. The light specialist can adapt to the type of housing, to your needs, and then give you the best solution to create this optimal light climate, and that you can have better light management practices. That you can steer the body weight developments, as that according to the egg weight, and the production also with day length, that is with a photo period, that you can also manage with a good lighting program. And of course, there are 3 different phases in lighting programs. So normally first phase is to decrease day length. So when you have the pullets, is to provide a lot of sufficient light intensity and many hours of light, so almost 24 hours. And then you will reduce that day length. As soon as they get used to their system, to their surroundings, to rich feed and water, then you will decrease that day length. And that the second phase is to have a constant day length for the proper growth. And then the third phase, that is the fact of reducing day length, because then again, you need that light stimulus. And that would be with the third phase, again, to increase a day length or give more light intensity. Therefore, you also decrease the light intensity in the second phase. And then to provide the light stimulus when needed. And again, you need to be clear with the message, how much you will increase that light intensity, how much will increase that period of providing more hours of light, so that they can understand what you want to tell them, so that you can influence in their biorhythm and their behavior. Now, how can lighting help to reduce floor X? Well, I already said a bit of it with knowing where you will get the right light intensity at the right place of the house. That will depend on the type of housing and system, that you can request a light plan to know where to install the lights, which light fixture is the best for your type of housing, to have a good illuminance in there, mainly as main lighting on the corridors, that you have enough sufficient lighting when you have an aviary or a floor housing. Then have darker zones close to the nest, because that would be to get them trained to use the system properly. And then in case of aviary, sometimes you have also perch lighting, so that you bring all the birds into the system. And normally the light in the system, as you have enriched cages as well, or aviaries, normally that is with not so a high light intensity, just that provides sufficient light to attract the birds into the system. But the one that provides higher light intensity is at corridors. So that's the difference on having different light zones with different light intensities, that you can even dim the lights apart. The same with a floor housing. You can dim the lights to the sides of the house, apart from those lines located in the center of the house, in case that you have the nest in the middle. And with that, you can also train your birds. Here as an example of how you create this light plan to check on the light intensity. Here we have the values. We see with the green is a higher light intensity, that of the orange red part, and then where you will install the lights. So a good installation is also key on avoiding floor X. Here with an aviary, the same, that's having different light zones. Here we have the main lighting, the perch lighting above the system, and the lighting in the system or underneath, because if birds have access underneath the system and they are not well trained, or there is no light in there and it's cozy and it's dark, they will leave the eggs in there and not going into the nest. So the same, creating those shadows from the system itself at the corners. Then it's also, again, spots where to leave the eggs. And that kind of problems you have as well in floor housing. So sometimes the shadows of the slats that creates those dark spots. Here, a short video, how different light fixtures can train the birds to go into the system. So that is also important. Even the most disoriented hen goes into the system. That is important that you start training the bird since rearing phase. So if you have a similar housing, then start doing it then, because it's just a learned behavior. Again, lighting is helping you to achieve that. Just to finish this webinar, we have here the benefits of good lighting. So we remember those 4 key benefits of optimal lighting for laying hens. It was to improve sexual maturity, egg production, to decrease floor eggs, to decrease stress, and to have the proper stimulation of the birds. And that you see also uniform performances. So here we sum up all of them, and we add to have this optimal usage of the housing, and of course establish light management practices when you know what is the optimal light climate in the house to steer the desired animal behavior. And here are the aspects of lighting that you need to take into account. So daylight simulation, how is that? We'll have a broad spectrum of light, simulate the color of light that stimulates the best in the different stages of the bird. Adjustable light color then, if you need to add reds or blue, or see the cool white, the warm white, flicker-free lights, smooth dimmability, flicker-free as well, and the correct light intensity and light distribution by installing the lights correctly. So all this will create the optimal light climate, and that fulfills the needs of poultry, but also of the farmer. So we have focused a lot on the basic knowledge of lighting and how influence in animal behavior, and certainly in laying hens, how you can improve in performances, and comes basically in to improve poultry side. So it's how light penetrates or is seen by poultry, but also through the skull that will improve their well-being, their biorhythm, their behavior, and you see improved performances in multiple ways. And that is by fulfilling the needs of poultry. But the farmer is more interested in cost-efficient solutions. So how to do save in energy costs, in replacement costs, spare parts, installation costs. So all those things, a good light specialist, and in this case, that we dedicate this knowledge to create innovative solutions that will also help the farmer to have tasks done more efficiently and reduce costs as well in multiple ways. So reduce workloads, reduce downtime, energy savings, cost and purchasing, replacing, and so on. In that way, you have more sustainable solutions and a more responsible farming. And that is the main goal here of having a good light climate in poultry houses. So here the presentation, hope you have found it useful. You will see the recording afterwards. If you still have some questions, I think we have some time to answer them. So I share the microphone with Rodolfo. Thank you, everyone.
Cristabel, thank you very much again. I love your presentations. They are very clear and very practical. And that's part of our goal, providing this type of information that our audience can put it to practice. So we have one question in our inbox from anonymous attending saying, please explain a lighting schedule for an open broiler, for an open house broiler breeders in a country near to Ecuador, where they have normally 12 hours daylight already.
All right. Well, a very specific light program, the best is to follow the recommendation of the breed, because they have it very detailed and it's quite complex. And anyway, you need to adapt according to the activity of your flock. But as a lighting specialist, what we can recommend is that we follow then your practices. If you are staying in a broiler breeder house, for instance, we recommends high light intensity because you need a higher light stimulus with broiler breeders. Layer breeders, for instance, Genetica is made to lay eggs, and with broilers, there's another objective. So you need to stimulate more. So with a layer breeder, we will say 60 to 80 lux, depending on the region and the type of housing as well. And with a broiler breeder, we are always talking about 180 to 100 lux in average. Then when you have dimmable lighting, you can reduce light intensity following the light programs. But with dimmable lighting, you can also simulate sunrise and sunset. So with sunrise, you can start with 15 to 30 minutes, and then when it is sunset, decrease that light intensity until it's off. And you can use the same 30 minutes or extend it so that birds are used to the day length and the changes in the day with the lighting density, and then they can look into to use the system properly. So on those kind of things is what as lighting specialist can help you to establish really the light program. The best is just to follow the light management of the breed. And then we can help you with a good light plan and a good lighting system that can adapt the best to that light scheme and your own practices, of course.
Thank you, Cristabel. I think that also you can reach the question box, but another one is from Sachinta Dilshan. Would you recommend dimming lights during breeding, vaccination in broiler breeders?
Yeah, and
In my case,
yeah, I'm
go
reading
ahead,
it.
you can
And
read it.
yes, in my case, vaccination is practiced at night. That means exceed 8 lighting period. Yes, well, maybe the practice of dimming lights could be to reduce activity, because that is one effect, or that is what you are sending the message to the birds, and you will see that effect when you decrease light intensity, you decrease activity, just to keep birds calmer and then make it easier to catch them. So that would be a case. But if then it is done by night, then indeed you are extending day length, and then therefore perhaps they use lower light intensity. So that could be a way. But the other that we suggest is to use the blue lights, and that really creates that effect in birds that they sit still, and then it's easier to catch, it's faster to realize the activity of this way, the vaccination, and decreasing the stress. And yeah, how or they perceive the blue light, it is still unknown, but it is just amazing how they really are staying still. And that helps. And that is not giving a negative effect in welfare. So it has benefits indeed, but still they can perceive their surroundings. For us, when we are in a room with blue light, it looks darker. It doesn't mean that for them is the same. We remember that they see in a different way. But I believe that could be the two options, by doing the vaccination, dimming lights, or else using blue lights.
Okay, the next question, can we access to previous webinar? The ones that we have been done with HATO, with Poultry School, you can access in our YouTube channel, Poultry School. You should go to that page. And then I think that Cristabel with HATO, they have another bunch of recordings.
Of webinars, yes.
Of webinars that I don't know, Cristabel, how they may access to those, but you can guide them.
In our case, we extend live webinars, and those you cannot look back again. They are not recordings, so only live webinars. If you go to our website, hato.lighting, you will see in the HATO Insights or Knowledge there our webinar schema. The one to come in November is a light flicker. So it's really half an hour talking only about light flicker and how to measure it. And other is how to measure lighting in general. So all these aspects that we were talking, that is another webinar that will come in December. And there we are publishing the upcoming webinars for next year and so on. So keep an eye in there. Okay. And the ones of Poultry, you can watch it back. So it's good.
In YouTube. So then we have Marvin Alvarado, the arrangement of the bulls, one above and below and so on is recommended.
I believe it's talking about the lighting for batteries in cage housing. That is well recommended. So they call it V shape when you have a bulb installed that is hanging from the ceiling. to illuminate the top tiers, and then one below at a certain distance to illuminate the bottom tiers. Certainly for systems that have above 4 tiers, like 4, 5, 6 tiers, or even longer, and then they have some of them a mezzanine of a catwalk, so where you can hang then lights under the catwalk. If you don't have that, then you have the V shape, and that is indeed to reduce this gap and difference in lux levels, and to have a more uniform distribution. But again, perhaps the wolf itself is giving really high intensity in front of the cages that are in front of the wolf, and that the behavior or performance may differ for those that are in between the wolves, the cages in between those lights. So I suggest that you do the measurements and check if the light is being uniform along the tier, so horizontal and vertical as well.
Okay, we have our last questions. You can read it from your side, Cristabel.
Yes, so would you recommend 17 hours lighting in broiler breeders after 50 weeks of age? Well, again, as said, so we are not the ones recommending the light program. That is basically following the recommendation of the genetic line, because we need to know the breed, location, and so on, and that is stated in their management guidelines. But we can help you of create the optimal light climate so that the lights are correctly installed, so that you achieve the right lux level, that the light distribution is uniform, a broad spectrum of light. And if you have dimmable lights, then you can manage your light programs more properly. So that would depend on the behavior of the flock as well, and how is the objects of that farm being achieved. So therefore, the best is to look into the LAT programs of the genetic line.
Okay, perfect. I think, I think that we have 2 more questions. Thank you very much, very informative. Thank you guys also for being here. Can we take this presentation via email? No, the only way that you will have access will be in the recording. In YouTube, you need to follow our social media, even Cristabel's or Poultry School, mostly
Yes.
LinkedIn. And
Yes.
then this video will be open for view next week for free. So we always announce that in social media when it's ready.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So follow our profiles, Poultry School, HATO, or Cristabel. Then you will see the link coming up, and then will be available online. Then you can visit the Poultry School website, and you will find there the webinar, as well as our previous webinars with the other topics in regards poultry lighting.
Okay, everybody, thank you very much for your time. Cristabel, again, thank you very much. We are working in another project with HATO. We will announce that maybe in the next couple of weeks. We're very excited about this project that we're working. Is something new. But again, thank you. This video is gonna be accessible in the next week, and see you soon. See you in the next one. Thank you, Cristabel.
And thank you very much, and have a good day. Thank you, Rodolfo. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.